Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. My name is Dr. Karachi, and in this video here we're gonna focus on learning about vulnerability scanning, which is a very important topic that we need to understand. And I think it's a very important for you to learn how to use some of the tools that I'm going to discuss. Now we're going to learn about, what is vulnerability scanning and the purpose and the method and the tools used to do vulnerability scanning, different types of vulnerabilities and vulnerability scanning, and some other consideration when we do the vulnerability scanning, and like use different tools, learn about different tools, and analyze the results. Now, first of all, before we jump into the topic, we need to understand what is vulnerability scanning. Well, basically, this is an automated process to help you find security weakness, or vulnerabilities, or misconfiguration in a system, networks, or application. Which means that you will need to use a special type of tools, or well-known tools like Nessus, which is something we're gonna discuss about it, to help you detect known vulnerabilities such as unpatched software, open ports, weak credential, or insecure configuration. Now, the question here is, what is the purpose of vulnerability scan? Well, so we know the ultimate goal is to discover target vulnerabilities and weaknesses in a target that we want to scan. However, there are several scenarios that organization will request to do penetration testing. The first one is being proactive decision. Means let's assess and secure the our computing environment before cyber attack occurs, which is a smart thing to do, being proactive, not reactive. Now, the reactive decision mean we need to respond to security breach or incident, and then we need to fix that vulnerability. The other one is corporate policies, which requires and to do penetration testing as part of the security policy of the company. Finally, regulatory requirements, which is something we learned before about PCI that requires to do penetration testing. Okay, so there are potential sources for target on which to conduct vulnerability scanning, and there are certain documents, certain things that we covered this before, but I'm going to talk about it very quickly. Now, the first part is statement of work, which is document outlining the scope, deliverables, and the timeline of the project. Rules of engagement defines the agreed upon terms, limitation, and permissions for conducting penetration testing or assessment. White box information, detailed internal knowledge about a system, including network architecture, source code, and configuration. Nmap, which is the tools that we use to discover active devices, services, and open ports. And we have the assessment management and inventory tool, which is basically a software used to organize, track, and manage assets and assessment processes. Okay, so what type of vulnerabilities out there? Well, there are plenty of vulnerabilities, and it can be categorized into software flaw and failure to follow best practices. And for example, the first one, missing software patches. Well, this result of outdated software or unpatched system with known vulnerabilities. Obviously, the attackers will try to exploit these flaws to gain unauthorized access. Administrative accounts, well, this means the use of weak or default admin credentials, which because of what? Because of poor account management, like unused accounts or shared credentials, which obviously increase the risk. The default configuration. So basically, attackers will hope that whatever application or system or devices you have it on your network is left with manufacturer default settings. Like certain common passwords, or leave some configuration as is without changing it. Default permission, misconfigured file or system permissions allow unauthorized access or privilege escalation. And also there's something else like exceedingly permission access increase attack surfaces here. Now, SSL TLS certification issues, dealing with expired, weak, or improperly configured SSL TLS certificates. Now, this exposes systems to man-in-the-middle attacks and compromise secure communication. And finally, we have the web application vulnerabilities, issues like cross-site scripting, insecure APIs, SQL injection, poor coding practices or misconfiguration make applications a common attack target. So, so the idea here is that vulnerability scanners identify gaps arising from software flaws like these things, you see it on the screen, and best practices failures, like misconfiguration. So rigorous scanning ensures systems are updated, properly configured, and compliant with the security standard. Now, okay, specialized system can be affected as well, by less common vulnerabilities. These are common vulnerabilities. These are considered less common vulnerability because it's attached to certain type of devices like ISCS, IoT, POS system, and other system. Like for example, the first one here, the ICS, which is Industrial Control System. Now, the type of vulnerabilities can be, weak vulnerabilities, legacy system, which is very common in this type of, devices, and poor network segmentation. Okay. And here we have the SCADA, Supervisory Control and Data Acquisition System. Outdated software is very common. Unsecure communication protocol, which can basically, the impact of this is big, big. Why? Because it could disrupt critical infrastructure like power grids, water supply, and you have also the mobile devices as well. Like insecure app, unpatched OS, weak encryption, data leaks, which is obviously can lead to data theft, malware propagation, device compromise. And here we have the IoT devices, default credentials is one of the vulnerabilities, insecure firmware, lack of updates, especially coming from unknown companies, which the impact of this can be big. Like your IoT devices could participate in botnet attacks, data breaches. Embedded system here, for example, could be like limited security features, hard-coded credential, outdated firmware. Embedded system, a good example could be like medical devices or vehicles. Point of sale, the one you see it in the big stores, weak encryption, unpatched system, skimming attack, and this also could lead to theft of payment, card data, and financial loss. Biometric devices, also as well, data spoofing could be insecure storage of biometric data, hack, which of course could lead to identity theft and unauthorized access. Application containers like misconfiguration, insecure images, container breakout risks, impact, compromise application, and could be lateral movement across environment from one container to another container, possibly. It's kind of similar to the VM escape attacks. We have the real-time operating system, RTOS, memory corruption, lack of security updates, and resources exhaustion, which is obviously stuff like this could lead to system crashes, delays, or failures in the mission critical application. Now, vulnerability scanning program may offer pre-configured scan updates, or templates, especially from those very well-known application, based on several factors. The first one can be, I mean, okay, it could be like example, like target type. What target type is? It could be like, for example, like stealth needs, compliance requirements, system impact consideration. You could use white box credentialed or black box unauthenticated approaches depending on the goals of security assessment. But when you look at the type of attack, one of the options or the pre-configured scan types. Like for example, like do I want to scan web servers, or do I want to scan database server or IoT devices? That like, so if you wanna scan web servers, you might follow the OWASP. Remain undetected during the scan. The need to be, like sometimes you need to do stealth scans to minimize detection by reducing scan intensity and avoiding triggering security tools. And we already spoke about compliance scans. Some of them, do you have a template specifically for PCI or GDPR? Looking for certain things based on the standard requirement. And here we have the scans that limit impact on production host. That's something. That is very important. Low impact scans avoid overwhelming production systems, especially those legacy old systems with high resources usage, or system that is critical system with high resources usage. So that's something you need to look into it. White box scan would provide the credential, or black box with no information. And that's where you decide, do I need to have a credential scan or non-credential scan? Something we will discuss it in the next few slides. Now, types of vulnerability scan, there are a lot. The first one, discovery. The idea behind the discovery scan is to locate active host services or devices on the network, which is typically is the preliminary step before we do the detailed scan. The full scan is noisy, which means because it runs a comprehensive scan using multiple methods and techniques. So that's, like I said, this is noisy and generate significant network traffic that can be easily detected by IDS or whatever. We have the stealth scan over here. We could do it quietly by reducing traffic and avoiding detection. That's used in environments where stealth is critical. Compliance, customized scan designed to meet regulatory, like PCI or HIPAA or whatever you want. We have also the web application scan. The purpose of to target web servers in particular and web application, looking for vulnerabilities like SQL injection attacks, cross-site scripting, insecure APIs. This is very, very important. Of course, there's other type of scans. Like malware scan. Like if you look at the Nessus, okay, it has a malware scan. It has a configuration audits, patch management verification. But some of these are paid. Like this is the screen of Nessus, which is very well known vulnerability scanning, and this is one of my favorite. Those are free, except this one over here. So every time you see the upgrade, uh, this means you have to pay for it. And here you could see the other options with it here. Now, Nessus has a lot of plugins to help you. Like if you want to do the web application test, it has so many plugins. Now, In this video lecture, I'm not gonna go over the configuration and stuff like this. There is absolutely no need to go over this, but I have under my playlist of vulnerability scanning tools, I have several videos, like for example, how to do web application vulnerability scanning, how to do advanced scanning feature. You have host discovery under Nessus. You have another one to learn OpenVAS and Nikto. Also, it's a web vulnerability scanner. And these videos will teach you step by step how to install, configure this. Whether you want to configure like Nessus under Windows or and the link to download, how to do the registration, and how to run each one of the scans. So I take a step by step into how to do this. So please watch these videos here. Okay, so I want to talk about the difference between credentialed scan versus non-credentialed scan. Now, credentialed scan means that you are supplying the vulnerability scanning application with the username and a password. Either you created it or provided by the client. You know, the main purpose of the administrative credential is that it enabled the scanner to run as a privileged user. Like, for example, a user who has access to a database in the backend system. So when you want to scan the database system looking for, different type of vulnerabilities, you are scanning the system as if was like just a user accessing the database, and you want to look for any issues with the database or with the application, like missing patches, insecure settings, weak permission, and so on. And that's a typical white box testing to simulate an insider attack or authorized access scenario. The non-credential scan is done without credential, which is basically a black box approach, no username or a password. Obviously, there's less information typically discovered during this, and that's one of the limitation. And of course, other limitation that you cannot access internal configuration or access deeper system issues here. Okay, so now let's talk about application vulnerabilities. When we talk about web application, this is a very important thing because they are the common type of hacked application. They are accessible publicly, and accessible publicly, and they are the targets for hackers, to scan your web server, your web application, looking for any vulnerability to exploit. And what add to this also is that, okay, so like a compromised web application is not only could compromise your web server, but it could lead to compromise of the host server or even a connected system to your web server. As you know, web server is not standalone server. In 99% of the companies, they are linked to back-end system. And I mean, you can imagine the big risk of this part. And the other thing here is that we're dealing with variety of programming languages here and platform like PHP, JavaScript, Python, Java, ASP.NET. Each platform has its own advantages and disadvantages, which obviously, leading to platform-specific vulnerabilities that attackers can exploit. Now, there are, you know, uh, you know, many types of web application are freely available. Many of them are open source or could be a commercial, of course, depending on the requirement. While tools for rapid development make application creation easier, well, they could be an issue if no proper precaution are taken during the programming. Like also, like in the other hand, custom-built application require in-depth programming knowledge and source coding practices to minimize vulnerability. So we know that there are many types of vulnerabilities commonly impact. For example, like a SQL injection attack. Attackers can manipulate database queries to access or corrupt data. You got cross-site scripting, which involves injecting malicious script into a web page to steal session tokens or user information. You got also like insecure authentication or session management, which can allow attackers to hijack user session. So these poor security configuration uh, are, it could be common in this type of thing. Now, the thing that you need to understand is that the ease of web application development today often prioritizes speed over security, which resulting in overlooked vulnerabilities. Now, to mitigate these risks, developers must adopt secure coding practices. They need to do also code reviews. This is very lengthy process, but it is important. And of course, to do code reviews, you want to make sure those developers are, has or have the right skills to do that. And not to mention, you need to do regular vulnerability assessment. Okay, so these are important things. Now, when it comes to application security, AppSec, this is overlooked as many security professionals have networking or operating system experience, but they have no or little programming knowledge, and so these guys, they focus on the network security protection, like safeguarding infrastructure components like routers, switches, and firewall. But I could tell you that in many, many cases, they are often overlooks the specific vulnerabilities within application. Now, the other issue is in network security courses, that a lot of students are learning, programming concepts are sometimes given little attention. Now, this gap leaves security professionals unaware of how poor coding practices or application flows can be exploited. Even with the best perimeter defenses, having the state-of-art firewalls, IDS, whatever tools you have, attackers can still circumvent these protection by targeting vulnerabilities within the actual application, within the web application. You know, like for example, like some network defenses may not detect SQL injection or cross-site scripting, so it will go through this. Now, uh, so understanding programming or scripting concept as a security professional, I think this is very important, okay, for you and for your career to learn about these type of vulnerabilities and learn about programming and learn what type of mistakes developers can do. Now, web application testing falls into two main techniques. The first one, static application security testing. We have dynamic, and we have interactive application security testing. So I'm going to talk briefly about each one of them. Now, the static one, okay, basically, the key features is reliable method to detect software coding errors like input validation issue, insecure APIs, and poor coding practices. It basically examines the application an inside out perspective, and they call it the white box testing because the tester have full access to application source code, architecture, and design. So this is very beneficial, you know. Now, the dynamic one is it's black box testing, okay, because it focuses on application's behavior without any prior knowledge of its internal working. So, the tools used in the DAST, it simulate real-world attacks like SQL injection and cross-site scripting and others. So this is ideal for testing web applications where source code is not available here. It could also help you to identify runtime issues like input validation flows, session management errors, and so on. The last one, this is, they call the gray box testing, combines both techniques of the static and the dynamic. And, so think about it. It combines the benefits of the static and dynamic, which provides a more comprehensive security assessment. So so it offers more accurate results by correlating code errors, which is, you see it during this testing of the SAST, and with the runtime vulnerabilities doing the DAST. So that's something to look into it. Okay, so let's talk about Open Web Application Security Project, OWASP. Now, OWASP has a website, and this is one of the sites that I strongly recommend that you review it and take a look at it and learn. Now they have the top 10 list of the most critical web application security risk. They're working on the latest one. I think it's 2025, and and this information, it can give you a good detailed knowledge about each one of these stuff over here. So again, I strongly recommend going over and look at the website. Now, uh, fuzzing. This is a software testing technique used to discover vulnerabilities and bugs by feeding random, invalid or unexpected data inputs. Like injection vulnerabilities into application or system to observe its behavior. The primary goal of fuzzing is to identify security flaws, crashes, or unexpected output that can be exploited. Okay, so there are different types of, by the way, like you got the web application, testing inputs in the form, URL, and API, file format, identifying issues and how software handles malformed files, network protocols, sending unexpected packets to test network services, and command line tools, injecting unexpected arguments or input. Now, there are many, many, many software out there that can help you do this. There is one called AFL, American Fuzzy Loop, which is fast and widely used fuzzing tool. You got the OWASP, coming from this company as well. They have their own one, ZAP, used for fuzzing web application, and there are much, much more tools. Now here, if you look at it, for example, like you have Nessus Essential, which, as I told you in one of my videos, you'll be able to learn how to download. Once it's finished scanning with exploitable tool, here you could see basically list of vulnerabilities discovered, and you could see this one is critical, this is mixed, this is high, medium, and it tells you what type of like the name of vulnerability and what is it? Is it backdoor or service detection or CGI abuses and so on? So when you click on each one of them, it will provide you with the description of this. So again, Nessus is very important. And by the way, you could download it to your Windows machine. Of course, the Nessus is essential, the one it can be downloaded. Nikto is another open source web application scanner, very common. It's free. It can test for vulnerabilities, misconfiguration, and other security issues in a web servers. Okay, widely used for automated reconnaissance and vulnerability detection. So and I have a video about it, how to download it and install it into your Kali Linux. You got the WPScan, which is stand for WordPress. That's widely used content management system, CMS, that powers, according to research, over 40% of websites worldwide. It enables users to create, manage, and customize websites, blogs, and e-commerce platform with ease. So there is, you got WPScan that help you scan looking for any issues, any vulnerability in this type of platform. Now, of course, we got the SQLMap. If SQLMap, it's again another widely used open source penetration testing tool that automates the process of detecting and exploiting SQL injection attack. You know, vulnerabilities in the web application. And I think if you want to learn SQLMap, one option you could do, you could set up this one in Kali Linux, and you could try against OWASP BWA application, which can be downloaded from OWASP website, where you could learn about SQL injection attack. Now, vulnerability scan consideration. There are important factors to consider before conducting a scan: the timing, network topology, and the bandwidth. Okay, so now the fact is, before you do a scan, these are important to keep in mind. Like the timing is critical consideration, as it determines when the target system will be tested. Now, uh, in many cases, scans can be scheduled during off hours, like night or weekends, to minimize disruption, or carefully planned during production hours, like if it's a must, to ensure business operations are not significantly impacted. Now, weekend scans are often ideal for testing live system without interfering with regular workflow. Now, for network topology, also this is very important, a clear understanding of the network layout, which includes firewalls, IPS systems, subnets, VLANs, can help you identify target devices and avoid unnecessary disruption you know and you got bandwidth also consideration. This is very, very important, especially for networks with low capacity links. Vulnerability scan can consume significant network resources, by the way, which may impact performance. To mitigate this, scans should be performed outside of peak hours, and settings can be adjusted to lower the intensity, like such as limiting concurrent connections. Instead of having to do multiple connections, you can do few connections at the same time. And obviously, you should monitor network performance when you do the scan. You want to make sure that everything is stable and it's working fine. Now, for other important factors, query throttling. Uh, Now, this involves reducing the rate of interactions between the scanning tool and the target system. This precaution helps to prevent overloading system, and particularly in sensitive environment here. There should be like special care must be taken with fragile system. Like certain hosts can be disrupted or even crash, especially, by the way, legacy or old operating system. You have to be extremely careful with this because it happened before and cost that person his or her job. So system that operating near capacity, also another issue, or running or like a system, not only old operating system, also old hardware. So you have to be extremely careful. And the other here is what you see on the screen: non-traditional system. Like you see it like smart TV, medical devices, employee owned smartphone. It could be discovered during live or active reconnaissance. Now, these systems are not always known to client, and tester must notify the client and seek approval before you do the scan. Like the one you see, like because you're scanning these without permission, it could be an issue that you have to deal with. Okay, so in the second part of this video lecture, we're going to talk about executing vulnerability scan and the fact, some important factors to consider before conducting a scan. Some of the stuff we already discussed it before, so you know. So the first one, the scope of the vulnerability. Okay, we already talk about SOW and ROEW, and and the type of tools that will be allowed or restricted. Organization may specify, type of scanning tool or techniques are permitted. So this is something you need to discuss with them. And we know about the white box test, assessment, and how it, the client will give you information. Now, for the scoping here can help break large networks into more manageable segments. You know, this, when dealing with extensive and complex networks, defining the scope of the vulnerability scanning can prevent the process from becoming overwhelming. Like, when you break down large networks into smaller, more manageable segments, it makes the scanning process more organized, efficient, and thorough. Now, for the last part here, dividing scan by types of targets for vulnerability scan can also be a good approach. Well, here's another way to manage scope is to categorize system based on their functionality or platform or service type before starting the vulnerability scan. Like, for example, you could have a separate scan done for web servers, or a separate one for endpoints, separate one for cloud, for database, or even for cloud assets. So when you group these similar targets together, security team can fine-tune their scanning methods and tools for each category. Of course, this will result in more accurate findings, streamlined reporting, and more targeted remediation efforts here. Now, in this one here, in this screen here, what I've done, I broke down the difference between Nessus and OpenVAS. And if you look at it, we know that Nessus is a commercial one, but you got the Nessus Essential, it's free to download. OpenVAS, it's free, it's free. The cost, if you want to get the upgrade one, you have to pay for it. OpenVAS, that's not the case. Now, for the plugins, are extremely important, because, and honestly, Nessus stands out for its extensive library of plugins, giving us a broad range of detection method for various platform and services. Okay, the result of having that large number of plugins is that you would have more comprehensive vulnerability coverage, often providing deeper and more specialized scan than it is, competitors. OpenVAS has much less. Now, there are so many templates, for Nessus. One way to figure this one out is by downloading it and look at it. OpenVAS has its own templates like full scan, host discovery, web application scan, configuration. Nessus is excellent when it comes to configuring certain options, to fine tune scans, and OpenVAS has also very nice features, but it's less refined compared to Nessus. Scanning capabilities for Nessus, it's amazing. I mean, it can scan web application, malware detection, compliance auditing, configuration check, even mobile. You know, so OpenVAS has less. Nessus is very fast with optimized algorithm resource usage. Now, OpenVAS can be slower, and reporting. Nessus provided with detailed reporting of your scan, which is compatible with compliance or certain uh, regulation. OpenVAS reporting is fine, okay, but less detailed and polished comparing to Nessus. And here we talk about the community support and intelligence updates, and that's very important. Nessus has frequent updates and plugin intelligence for discovering zero-day vulnerabilities. Now, OpenVAS updates rely on communities to do this, and they don't have like enterprise-grade support, anything like this. So that's something to keep in mind. Now, if you look at the screen over here, here you can see the enabling, disabling plugins for Nessus, and here you can see that those plugins are under advanced scan. Quite frankly, You can play with the plugins not only under advanced scan, under web applications. So you have so many options for you to play around. Now, remember that we discussed credential versus non-credential. Okay, so here you have like a credentials option, like if you want to do like a scan, and when you type in the admin or the username and a password, and like you have an option to enter the domain. I already talk about these in detail in my videos, so please refer to my videos for information. Now, for scanner and plugin updates. Now we know by now plugins are very, very important because it can give you it can cover a wide range of vulnerabilities. And so the CVE records exist for vulnerability scanner too. So I mean, what does it mean? It means that Nessus, for example, it's finished scanning something, it would tell you which CVE it's referring to. Now, for the updates here, Nessus updates typically involves two key components here, the scanner engine itself and the vulnerability detection plugins. Now, the scanner software can be upgraded by downloading the latest version from Tenables, which is the owner of Nessus. So, and also in fact, it's crucial to ensure that Nessus service is running and configured to receive automatic plugin updates. These are usually distributed daily from Tenable servers and include new vulnerability checks, bug fixes, and refined detection methods here. Okay, in the last part of this video lecture, we're going to talk about, analyzing vulnerability scan results. And now, briefly, there's the names, types of vulnerability detected, the scores, based on the severity or, how critical it is, some detailed vulnerabilities, redemption steps, exploit, and references. So what does it mean, the whole thing on the screen? It means that vulnerability scanners provide a comprehensive view of identified security issues, offering more than just a list of detected weakness. They typically return details about each vulnerability, including its name, the category it falls into, and the severity score, like, based on a standard called CVSS. I'm going to talk briefly about it later to help prioritize redemption efforts. Now, beyond severity, many scanners also give a technical explanation of how the vulnerability works, its potential impact, and instructions on how to fix it. Now, some tools even supply exploit details or links to known proof of concept exploits, as well as references to external documentation or adversaries for further research. Now, this wealth of information that you're looking at the screen here helps you as a security, personnel understand the root cause, risk, and redemption option. I mean, at the end, you want to improve the security of your organization. Now, in the screen here, you look at here, this is a screenshot was taken from Nessus Essential. And, we scan a specific server over here, and you can see the ranking are coming based on the severity of vulnerabilities identified. And you can see that the CVSS, okay, it's 9.8, which is critical considered. And it gives you like explanation about the name of the, service that has this type of vulnerability. Now, the CVSS base score, which is called Common Vulnerability Scoring System, CVSS from NIST. NIST does metric, and the method used to supply, which is qualitative measures of vulnerability severity, and can range from 0 to 10 scale, where 0 is low and 10 is critical. Now, if you look at the screen over here, that's for PHP My Admin. Okay, you can see that it's 9.8 critical. That's the the rating, which is based on a CVSS 3.x. Now, if you go to back to Nessus again and you read about the exploit information here, you could see the score-based information here, and here also you could see, provides some sort of description about this particular exploit, which is something that you need to read and try to figure out how to fix or taking care of it. Now, for analyzing, okay, there is the CVSS vector information. Now, the CVSS vectors detail the factors behind the vulnerabilities basis score, the one you just saw it here. That's the basis score right here on the screen, okay, 9.8. Now, which is provides a deeper understanding than a simple severity rating. There are different vector metrics captures specific characteristics of an exploit, enabling more precise vulnerability analysis, whether it's 2.0 or 3.0 now, there's also a newer one as well. Three, of course, offering a refined metrics better than two that improve clarity and granularity in scoring. Now, there are 7 attack vectors currently in use. The first one here, we could see that the attack vectors AV, which describes where the threat originate, like, via network, local access, physical. Attack complexity indicates how difficult it is to successfully exploit the vulnerability, whether it requires special condition or not. Privileges required, which is offers basically, it's a specified the level of privilege an attacker must have before exploiting the vulnerability. It could be none, low, high. And the user interaction states whether the vulnerability requires a user to perform an action such as clicking a link or running a file for exploit to succeed, and what's the impact in terms of confidentiality, integrity, and availability. Now, okay, by now we just completed the video lecture. We discussed the vulnerability scanning, the purpose, described the method and the tools to discover targets for vulnerability scanning. We describe different types of vulnerabilities and scans, describe additional consideration when performing vulnerability scan. And then we learn about, different tools that can do vulnerability scanning, and we learn a little bit about how to analyze the result of vulnerability scan. And finally, I want to thank you so much for watching this video lecture. I hope you find it useful. If yes, please hit the like button and subscribe to my channel. Again, thank you so much for watching.